Beast here, and welcome back to Sprocket. Now, I want to start this by saying, since I started putting out episodes of Sprocket, I've gotten quite a few new subscribers. So, thank you very much, and welcome to the channel. I do this channel just for fun. It is literally just things that I enjoy, that I record, and I post. Whether it's having fun with friends or just playing a game by myself. That's really all it is. So if you are here and you actually like it, we have quite a bit of common interest. And if you do see something here and you're not subscribed, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. So thank you guys very much. That being said, today we are going to scenarios. And we are going to cover No Tanks Land. Now last night I did this scenario and it is fun. It is a challenge. You have to be creative. And it doesn't give you enough information at first, which is part of what I think makes it a challenge. I know that sounds weird. So due to the lack of information, you're like, oh shit, here's another problem. Oh, here's another one. So as you see here, it starts with saying, destroy 75% of artillery. Well, that is 1/5 of your overall problem crossing no man's land here. So you have trenches. You have the artillery you're sent to destroy shooting at you. You have anti-tank guns shooting at you. You have tanks, then another wave of tanks. And then, finally, you get to go blow up the artillery. And it takes a while. So last night I started with a tank. A tiny little guy, as you see here in this picture. Me stuck in a trench with it. So I made that little tiny tankette. Two-person casemate thing. It's got an engine up front and the crew in the back. But it would not cross. And as you see, the suspension is like also stuck in the dirt. And that is an issue. So, I'll cover a little bit more of that later. It also feels like even though your tracks are pushed up against the far end of the trench, it's not getting traction like it should. I don't know if it has to be the wheel that's on there or if it has, or the track, which you'd think it would just be the track, because the track would still, well, have traction. So after making that little guy, I scrapped it. I made another tank, more World War II trapezoid shaped, that was also casemate with like a gun mounted in the hull. And it had issues too. And honestly, I just didn't really like its overall look. I hadn't really reached what I was looking for yet. And finally, I made this lovely gal, the Libertus. Libertus? Yeah, Libertus. It's the goddess Libertus, which is the Roman goddess of liberty. So the first story is at the end of World War I, or near the end of it, rather. The United States, Britain, and France got together and decided to build a tank. Well, France didn't have the industrial might to contribute to it, so it ended up just being the United States and Britain. Well, the United States ended up calling the tank the Liberty Tank, and later it was known as the International Tank. Not many were built, maybe a few dozen. Most ended up going to the scrap yards because we didn't have the economy to use them. So we did keep a couple that we used as tank familiarization vehicles, and one still exists. I believe I read about it in Maryland, if I'm not mistaken. It got moved. It is now in like Georgia, like Fort Benning or something like that, and it is being restored. But I guess the inside has extreme rust damage. So I mean, it's a tank that's 100 years old. So I mean, damage is going to happen. I digress. The Liberty Tank. Really like the name. So I Googled Liberty and looked up the etymology of it, and it was the Roman goddess Libertus, which I thought sounded very Americana. So I went with it. Second story to go with this tank. When I posted my previous episode, episode 4, it went up this morning, and so today I had checked my YouTube page, and there's a comment left, somebody saying, hey, I would like to see a mix between a B-1 bis and in an American style. And to which I replied, it's funny you should say that, stay tuned. And this is why. I hadn't put it together until that moment. Wow, this thing looks like a B-1, but Americanized. Now, what happened is my previous tanks were quite short and had suspension issues. And that's one of the biggest things that you have to deal with in this scenario, is the trenches. So this thing is designed to cross trenches. And it's hard to do the trapezoid shape. I mean, you can do the trapezoid shape, but to get the front sprocket mounted high, you really have to change the shape of all this. So I didn't even bother. I just decided to go with a more traditional shape, but just elongated. And it really does look like a B1. Well, it looks more like a B1 tier, not Abyss. The Abyss was more rounded and had a hell of a lot more armor on it. And this thing weighs maybe half as much, maybe a third, with half the frontal armor at least. So yeah, this thing's way smaller. But it still really does look like a French B1. Now, one of the biggest shortcomings of the B1 is the single-man turret. France had a tendency to do that. You just put one guy in a turret with a gun, and he's the commander, the gunner, and the loader. So he is overtaxed with everything he's got to do. Well, this has a three-man turret with a proper loader, gunner, and commander, which would have been pretty advanced for the time. I mean, honestly, this is more like a post-World War I tank, like borderline inter-war years, but it still fits the bill as far as I'm concerned. It's definitely got the look. It just has more advanced features. So this would have been very state-of-the-art, forward-thinking design for World War I. But since you can't do like the sponsons and everything, and machine guns aren't working yet, this is kind of what I have to use. Now, the main difference between what I used yesterday, which, by the way, I did actually finish the scenario with this tank, but with a 75mm gun on my first try. And here's a picture of it. So I changed it to a 37mm gun because the 75 did a great job. The APHE on that thing would half the time just one-shot everything. However, you get a long reload with it and less ammo in the turret. So I went with the 37mm. 37mm does the trick. Last thing we'll cover before I take you guys out on the scenario is let's take a look at the armor values. So here we got 17mm plates, 30mm plates, just this strip right here, 20mm, 20mm, and then the front of the tank, the turret I should say, has 30mm, and then on the side it's 15mm, and on the back it's 10. So you start to get real thin on the back. But this is where all your frontal protection is. I will take this as thinking about a World War I tank, about fighting other World War I tanks. If they had really thought that through, that's what this would have been. All right, let's go ahead and give this thing a go. It also has a 6-cylinder engine. The cylinders are at 4 liters per cylinder. And it uses a clutch steering, which only has 3 gears forward and back. So this thing actually, it would have been the fastest tank in World War I if this thing existed, because of just the massive engine and transmission in this thing. It really gets up and goes. At 18 kilometers an hour, you're talking anywhere from 10 to 12 miles an hour. And at the end of the war, the British had the Whippet medium cavalry tank that did a brisk 8 miles an hour. It was considered a fast tank because it was at like a light jogging speed. All right, so let's take a look at this thing's ability to cross trenches. All right, I want to push a little further forward before that artillery goes off, but I don't want to cross the next trench yet. Yeah, this is where the art is. Ooh, okay. Let's go ahead and angle our armor a little here. All right, right there. This one. Yep. Oh, he's dead. Right there. Got him. Wow, usually it takes me a couple of shots. I'm getting lucky. Alright, let's move before I get killed. Alright, actually, I don't want to go into those little divots and such, so let's go ahead. Look at these guys advancing ahead of me. Hey, wait for me. What are you doing? Alright. There we go. Alright, so someone pinged me from the left here. Oh, here comes the tanks. Alright, so we got to be careful because these tanks shoot a lot. Got him. Wow, I am just nailing it this round. Boop. I booped you. Oh, I died. Ooh, ow. All right, spoke too soon. And this tank is disabled. Oh, shit. All right, let's run it for as long as we can. All right. Stop shooting me. This is not war. What is this? All right, there you go. You're dead. All right. May not be able to win with this tank, but they'll know this thing was here. There we go. Oh, shit. Really? Do I got another one? Nope, this is the last one. And it's stuck in mud. No. Well. All right, we're just going to cut the scenario there. You get the idea. That was a pretty fun run. I was just hitting them and hitting them and hitting them, and they still took me out. As you see, the tank's not invincible, but it is powerful, and it is quite fun. I cannot suggest this scenario enough. Give it a try. It is a challenge, and I think you'll enjoy yourself. Well, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, and I'll see you guys next time.